There you go. That's the last time you will hear that, I promise.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for having me. My name is Chris Ferro. And yeah, Susan, glad to have you here asking some questions about internet service. Could you tell me a little bit more what you are looking for and what you currently have so we can discuss?
Yes, I've had a lot of questions. I have Comcast, and we had been having trouble with the cable, but I've been wanting to update Comcast. I keep getting things on the internet that Comcast is updating, and I don't know whether I should go for it. I have a personal modem, so, but the internet isn't coming in very fast, but I don't know if I need more speed or whether I need a new modem or whether I should go for the special that Comcast is pushing me into, which I don't trust.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I hear is that you have currently a Comcast service.
Yes.
The first thing we would have to determine is what speeds you currently have. Comcast offers different tier speeds, meaning anything from 10 to 15 megabyte per second download all the way up to a gigabyte download. That means you can buy faster and faster service in a download aspect. Download means more or less that you go online and you want to watch a movie, for example, right? You need to download it. So that's when download comes into play, when you want to obtain something from the internet. Upload speed, on the other hand, is always going to be a little bit slower with a cable connection, meaning even if you get a gigabit, meaning 1000 megabyte download, you're still going to have a very small upload percentage. When is upload important? Upload is important when you want to do video conferencing, for example, right? So you need to broadcast something into the internet. When you want to upload pictures, when you want to do data transfer. Most of the time, for residential use, upload is not that important. Comcast is more or less, and I'm not connected in any way with any of the providers out there, but Comcast using cable connection is usually enough for a typical home. Now, if your connection itself is not good and you're wanting to change, you probably have to find out where the Comcast connection fails, because each internet connection should be there really 24/7 available. If you know, or if you find that the internet goes in, goes out, goes in again, goes out when it rains, like intermittently going in and out on a very short time, and you have longer outages, then there's something wrong with the service itself, not with the service you pay for, but with the service you receive. And then it would become important to find out what can be done, and that involves getting technicians out, having the right vocabulary available when you talk to these technicians, because when you, for example, you call in to Comcast, right, into tech support, and say your internet is slow, the next thing they want is to sell you a new modem or an updated service, right? But they're not really addressing the issue if you have an intermittent connection problem. So there are ways to address that and finding out where it fails. Now, if you live in a neighborhood where you have a fiber optic service available, you probably want to switch to a fiber optic service, because a fiber optic service is a much higher throughput, meaning you have higher download speeds and higher upload speeds. And upload speeds become very important as the more you work with computers and the more you do video conferencing and such. In Georgetown, it really depends. I assume you're in Georgetown. It really depends where you are located in Georgetown, because some homes in Georgetown can receive fiber optic service and some homes can't, just because the cable is not in the street. And then you have different providers out there, right? You have Verizon Fios, Verizon DSL, you have a Comcast cable, you have different third-party providers as well, which would provide you customized internet access, but which is much more expensive and usually reserved for businesses. But you could obtain it if you really would work hard on it. To your question, should you upgrade or change? I think you would need first to determine if your internet service can't be repaired, really, because that would be my assessment, hearing what you were saying earlier. And then basically look if you could switch to something else. But the first step here would be repairing what you have currently. And I think sometimes it also depends if how your wiring is inside the house, right? So maybe Comcast is getting you the right signal to the doorstep and into the house, but then it stops because most homes in Georgetown don't have the right wiring available because they were built a couple decades ago.
The wiring was cut by a storm a few months ago, and Comcast came out. They were very nice and helpful. They restored the wiring, and it's working okay. But I find in some rooms we just don't have strong signal. Some rooms are okay. But I just keep getting a message from Comcast offering an upgrade and saying that I don't have this upgrade. I can't remember what it's called. I have to look for it. I have to find it. It's some kind of upgrade that they're offering, and it's a picture and a modem. And so I don't really know if I need it or they're just trying to sell me, a bag of goods. Let's see.
Well, what you can do, first of all, is your computer connecting wirelessly to the internet through a Wi-Fi connection, or is it wired to the modem?
We have a modem. I'm not very sophisticated, but we have Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, okay.
Yes.
In general, Wi-Fi is slower, much slower and spottier than having a cord connected from your computer to the modem.
I don't even have a computer. I'm just using the iPad.
Okay. Yes. So I think the issue here might be that your in-house Wi-Fi network might need to be upgraded. And the first step, I think, would be to probably upgrade the Comcast modem, because it does have a Wi-Fi router integrated in it. So which means it would boost a stronger signal within the house itself.
I just found the email. They're offering something called Xfinity Gateway, but I just don't know if I know that people tell me that it's better for you to have a modem and not rent it from Xfinity. So I just, they're recommending an upgrade.
Okay. Do you know? I'm sorry.
It's called Xfinity Gateway.
Okay. Do you know how old your existing modem is, which you have from Comcast?
It's about 3 years old. I think it's called Neos. Sorry, I just lost you. Hello?
you,
I think what happened is Susan had
Yeah.
a phone call and someone.
Yes, yes.
Right, there you go. You're
Yes.
back, Susan. Here you are.
Yes, okay. So anyway, yeah, yeah,
I could ask, how much would Comcast charge you to upgrade the modem?
I don't know, that I have to call them, but I didn't want to call them all ignorant. I wanted to know at least a little of what I was talking about. I don't know, Xfinity's weren't going to want to charge because they charge excessive rates. So I
So
just,
Chris, maybe it would be helpful if you could help Susan and probably the rest of us online as well with some general things to know when you're upgraded. You know, that would probably be helpful in a general way in terms of when you look to upgrade your internet service, things you should look for or ask.
Yeah. So I think to upgrade the equipment at that point would be advisable, because if the signal strength of your Wi-Fi, so let's say you walk around your house, right, and you see that the Wi-Fi bars go away and then they come back in, just indicates that the Wi-Fi signal is just not strong enough. And there are two ways to upgrade that. One way is you buy your own equipment and then do your own Wi-Fi in-house, or you have your internet service provider handle it for you, meaning they would need to bring in new equipment, they would need to hook it up, and sometimes they place extenders throughout the house. I've seen up to 2 or 3 extenders depending on the size of the house. With each extender, you're probably going to be charged a monthly rental fee by the provider. And but if you have those issues, I mean, that would be one way to go, and to have the internet service provider come in, since they already reached out to you that they have upgraded equipment. That will probably also indicate that your modem might be up for renewal to some sort, and then basically would take care of some of the issues which you're experiencing. But I mean, if you want, I could come by and take a look and see where the actual issue in your case would be, because it could be intermittent connection issues. It could be the way a modem is located. It could be also maybe to see where these extenders should be located at, because they're all, I mean, wireless networks are radiated like radio waves, right? Like a radio tower. So it really depends where you place them strategically. And some techs from Comcast just install them, but we don't care that much if they are optimal placed in the house or so. But most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, they do work.
yeah, I would like that. I would just like to get some good advice before I go and spend all this money, on additional modems. And I don't know if I need, all the expensive equipment that Xfinity would advise.
So, Chris, you know what might be helpful for everyone? If you put your phone number in the chat and Susan could call you to schedule a time for you to come by.
Okay.
You know, as a
Sure.
reminder for everybody, Chris does offer a discount rate for Georgetown Village members of only $75 an hour, and he is excellent. So, I highly recommend him. If you know anything, you know that you're paying a lot more for others and you might not get as good service. So his phone number is there. It's 202-361-6823. And, if Susan, if you want him to come by, definitely give him a call, probably tomorrow. And I think after the program, he wants to go play with his daughter. And then we can.
I didn't get it. I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
It's not 202-361-6823.
Okay. 202-361. I didn't catch the rest.
6823, and it's right in the chat. You can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I give him a plug? A lot of us have had Chris come and sort us out, and he's wonderful to work with. He's non-threatening. He doesn't ask you why you don't know something already. He's the perfect grown-up 9-year-old that we all want, but he's very expert. So I highly recommend him.
Thank you, Catherine. Yes,
He didn't
really is great. That's why we use him. He really is great. Other questions for Chris that you have about your devices, your internet, security stuff, whatever you feel that you'd like Chris to talk about. Really, the advantage to today's program is it's your opportunity to ask what you want to know.
Could I follow up on some of the questions that have already been asked?
Please, sure.
One might be, and it's perhaps, but thanks to Chris, I switched from Comcast to FiOS, and I really think it's far more satisfactory. Another question is there, Chris, a minimal amount of whatever the bytes are that one probably needs for a for household use, which would include streaming, would include video conferencing? Is there a magic number that is optimal?
Well, I would recommend a gigabit. That's 1,000 megabyte per second up and down. If this is not within the budget or so, then I would highly recommend a minimum of 250 megabytes up and download. I mean, download 250 download, and upload, you're probably going to get maybe 20 megabytes upload for that price. If you're with FiOS, then there should be plans out there for 250 megabytes up and down. But this is like the minimum. If you have DSL in the city, it's very, very difficult to stream something, to upload, to do video conferencing efficiently. And you're going to see that the internet's going to buffer quite a bit. And that's really where the speeds should be, in my opinion. But better if you can get to the gigabit connection. I mean, that's where you really want to be.
Does it matter I'm talking about fiber optics now. Does it matter how many people and how many devices are being used in a household, even with extenders? Because there certainly are in our homes in Georgetown places where I think maybe the construction is buildings that are steel seem not to have any trouble. So I'm always curious about why we have trouble in our dwellings when companies are.
So the way the LAN network works, meaning the in-house network of a business or a home, you're getting your signal from the internet service provider, right? That's what you get. Usually a gigabit is more than enough to run 3 homes if you want to. But when you get into the house, right, that's when the speeds really slow down more or less, because you hit the first device, which is usually a firewall. And then after the firewall, you have a switch. And that's when it can already be slowed down. For example, you have a gigabit connection, and the next device in after the firewall is a switch, which only has the capability of 100 megabytes per second, right? So anything after the switch would only receive 100 megabytes per second. So you're paying for a gigabit connection, 1,000 megabytes, and the switch lowers you down to just 1/10 of that. Okay. If there's a wireless access point behind the switch, you again reduce that from 100 megabyte down to maybe 50 to 40, depending on where where the access point is located. And then that's directly measuring next to the access point, right? And then when you move away from the access point, the further you move away, the slower the speeds get.
So how do you overcome that? Or is there no way to overcome it?
Yeah, there are ways to overcome that. You would need to have, the best way to overcome this is actually if you have access points which are gigabit capable, dedicated on a wire, going to a switch, which is a gigabit also, and then going into the into the internet. In most Georgetown homes, this is going to be difficult because you don't have an Ethernet from the modem to each of the access points. So you're basically daisy chaining access point to access point to access point, maybe an old Apple device, maybe Apple router, maybe an ASUS router, maybe a Netgear. You plug it into the wall outlet, which I don't really like, but they do seem to work. And there are different manufacturers out there which have older equipment, which is widely utilized, which do have the lower speeds. And then you have manufacturers out there which have higher grade, more expensive, but higher grade repeaters now, which can give you more speeds throughout the house. Each house is obviously a little bit different. They're constructed. Some have thicker walls, some have thinner walls, some have inside 2x4 stud walls versus masonry. Each of the each wall or so basically takes away from the radio waves, so to speak, because in the end, it's a radio waves, right? So when you probably remember going into your back then in the car on a road trip and you hear that station going in and out, right? It's the same thing with these wireless access points, just they radiate not as far as a radio station, just maybe 25, 30, 40, 50 feet maximum. The next thing, you probably would have to make sure that you have enough throughput and download and upload speeds on your Wi-Fi if you have, for example, Ring cameras, right? Or some kind of security cameras. Because if they don't have enough bandwidth, meaning up and download speeds on your LAN network, they won't upload good image quality or will interrupt. And that's why it's important to have those high-speed internet access and LAN networks.
Chris, most of us don't have the expertise to analyze and diagnose our systems. So are there, I don't know whether you do this or not, but are there individuals, companies that come and do the kind of diagnostics to try to determine how you can really maximize what you're paying for and see the components and how they're positioned? And
I don't know. I don't know. I know the internet service providers, they care what you get to your doorstep, right? That's why they always tell you plug in a cord to the modem and run a speed test, because they don't care what's going on inside the house, more or less.
Right.
If you sign up with a program where they provide you access point and extenders, there might be a chance that you can get someone out, but then you pay the rental fee, right? And depending on what kind of package you have, you may have to pay for a trip for them to come out. Other than that, you may find IT people who might come in to look at things and then recommend something. You would have to buy the equipment, more or less, right? Either from the person or directly, and then that would need to be installed. That's the, but I don't know.
I wonder if we can research and see if we can find resources that might be good for village members, because it's very frustrating that you can pay dollars for a service, but you have so many components that are sort of bottlenecking, and so you don't get the value and you don't get the speeds. I think that's what isn't that what you're saying, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, there are bottlenecks in your house, depending on what equipment you have. It also depends how old your equipment is. iPads, I'm not saying, but it depends how old it is, right? I mean, there's a 5G Wi-Fi access, there's 2.4 gigahertz access. 5G has higher speeds, but lower range compared to 2.4 gigahertz has a wider range, but lower speeds. And it really depends how your house looks like, where this equipment is located, and what you're willing to invest into upgraded equipment.
Thank you. I think I've taken an awful lot of airtime, so Lynn, move on. I'm sorry. I've got
Oh,
1,000.
don't be sorry, Catherine. This is all stuff we want to learn about. Liz, I see your hand. You need to unmute, please.
She's on mute, I think.
I know. Liz, you need to unmute.
Yeah,
There you
sorry,
go.
sorry.
That's
I have no idea what I have, but I know it's old. And I know I don't understand it. A friend of mine who was visiting quite a few years ago helped me do it, set it up. And, you know, I'm sure it's a mess. So the question is, does your firm do things like that? I mean, if we hired you to come over to our house, would you be able to look and give some advice, or do you not do that?
I would do that, yes.
Okay, well, I'm not going to call you right away because I'm living basically out in the country, but when I have some time to spend in my house, I will do that.
Okay, I'm glad to help.
It does do, you know, I can participate in Zooms, and it seems to do that very smoothly. I have Earthlink, and you know, I have no idea beyond that what I have. I have all fairly new Apple equipment. So anyhow.
Yeah, it's probably not your Apple equipment.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere between the Apple equipment and the internet. This could be old access points, undersized internet service.
A lot. Okay, thank you. That was my question.
All right.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Chris? Pat, I see that you're talking, but you're muted. Can you unmute, please? There you go.
Thank you. This may be something I'd have to check with Chris as an independent contractor. I'm having a problem with the Time Machine app on a MacBook, on a Mac. Apparently I haven't been ejecting it correctly when I go to turn the machine off. Is this, and now I seem to have lost the Time Machine to get it back where it belongs. Is that something that you can explain to me? I can't seem to understand exactly what the ejection part for each time I turn the machine off is required.
Yeah, I mean, hello, Pat. Usually the Time Machine should always run in the background. It's usually connected to a Apple router in the past. If it's not connected to an Apple router, one of those tall, wide Apple cubes, right? It is an external hard drive. The Time Machine itself is just a service to run your backups on a Mac computer. So if you use a, and if it tells you it's not ejected right, or there's a problem with ejecting right or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
It's probably an external hard drive, which is somewhere connected to, or was connected to a computer or to a laptop, or may not be there anymore. Either the drive itself failed, or there's a corruption which it can't reconnect correctly anymore. What you probably would have to check is that drive still good? And if you replug it in and you're trying to access Time Machine again, I think to the control panel under settings on Apple, if you can't get back in, there's a likely chance that these backups are not good, which means you're not backing up correctly.
That's probably true. So, is this something, I'm happy to pay you to come, but is this something that the geniuses understand if I take it to Apple?
Yeah, but they probably would tell you in the end, if the drive is corrupted, you probably would have to buy a new drive, a new external USB hard drive.
Okay.
And I mean, you can also buy it from Amazon if you want to, but you need to make sure that it's actually Mac, Apple compliant and made for Apple. And a good brand, I think, would be WD, Western Digital. I've seen Seagate, and I'm not a fan of any of the companies or have any stake in them, but I've seen Seagate drives crash easier for whatever reason than WD drives over the years.
Yeah, I think I've experienced that over the many years myself already with Seagate. That's a familiar name.
Yeah. One more question though is, what are you trying to back up though?
Well, it's what I can see on the screen. I understand. What's behind the screen, I don't. That's my ignorance. So I may need more than that.
Yeah, do you try to back up photos or documents?
Documents, mostly.
Documents. Okay. What I also would recommend is that you get a external USB drive where you just copy Word documents and Excel sheets over. Just an old copy and paste, put that drive away so that you have a raw copy of the data. What can happen with backups work, and then backups stop work, and then you think the backups work, and then you try to reinstall the backups, and then suddenly you find out that they don't work, and you don't have the data. So if you have very important documents you want to have saved, I would just take a USB stick, an external hard drive, just copy it on there and put it away.
Okay.
Because you know that those ones will work in future for sure.
So if it's on things that are on my computer and this one has failed, does that mean everything it contained?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
It could, yes.
Agreed. Okay, I'll be in. Thank you.
And there is a way, if things are lost, there are like computer forensics that can be done to restore. So don't feel like you've lost everything forever. There is a way to get them back.
Right.
Correct. The usual cost, I mean, just to give you an idea, let's say you take your drive and go to the Genius. I mean, I don't know exactly about the Genius Bar, but they may not charge that much. But let's say you go to Best Buy and to the Geek Squad, right? I think the average cost would start at $500 to maybe $1,500. That's talking about data recovery. It is possible. I mean, to get data killed or whatever takes quite a bit of effort. To physically damage the drive, format it 7 times. I mean, there are ways to get rid of data, but if you have a corrupted hard drive, there are ways to get it back, but it's worth the cost, right? So if you can buy a drive for $100 where you can copy everything over and you have it in case, versus taking a failed backup drive, hoping that you can recover it and then get something back, but
it may be something that I just also lost. Aside from the backup, my Wi-Fi isn't working, so I'm working. That's why I'm working off my iPad. My computer does not seem to be connected to the Wi-Fi. So we'll see.
If it was an external drive, or did you have an Apple router, like a tower or something?
No. I'll again want to take up time here. This is really a private problem that doesn't maybe appeal to others, and I'll be back in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Chris?
How much time do we have, Lynn?
We have about another half hour, so you're good.
Okay. I don't want to get in. I've had my say. So anybody else, please go first. Who's got a nagging?
Any other questions, Catherine? It's all yours. Oh,
Okay.
wait, Carol, I'm sorry.
Good. Go ahead.
Carol Kelly here. I wanted to also endorse what Catherine said about Chris and his skills and technical capabilities, and just how polite and pleasant he is to have around the house while he's helping you negotiate your relationship with the outside world via online capabilities. Chris, one thing we were thinking about doing, and this may be in your wheelhouse, this may not be in your wheelhouse, is trying to do a session in the fall for our members where we talk about how to use the web online capabilities to help people promote their health status. You know, there's everything from searching to telemedicine visits to patient portals to you know, remote devices. Do you have it? And we do have a medical committee that can help us with the health questions and such, but you know, they're not going to really you know, they have their own relationships probably and figured some things out for themselves, but we think we need some professional help as to how to tackle this online. Do you have is this an area that you have focused on?
Yes. I usually help actually setting up patient portals for different EMR programs.
Wonderful.
Yeah, depending when you ask me if it's wonderful or not. Some of these systems are pretty complex and require a lot of testing, and also depends on the user's end, right? So in an office or on a server setup, you always test more or less with the latest equipment and make sure that everything works, right? But in reality, when people go home, or patients go home and then want to log on, they use their own equipment, right?
Right.
And then that's when it becomes interesting. It's sometimes difficult to get help when you trying to log on. Maybe your equipment itself is older, not old. Maybe you have outstanding updates on your equipment. Maybe I've seen in the past that, for example, one patient trying to use Safari over and over and over again and can't log on, not knowing that he or she could try Google Chrome and it would just work fine. So each of the patient portals, for example, prefer one browser over another one, but it doesn't mean that the other browser doesn't work. So sometimes it will be good to utilize or try out different browsers when you get stuck, and make sure that your operating system's up to date, that your apps are up to date. And if you're still getting stuck or so, one way is maybe to reach out to the village or to directly to whoever is maintaining the patient portal. And there could be different patient portals out there. I mean, you could probably be with Kaiser Permanente, you could be with Care First, you could be with a specific doctor's office where you need to pull the prescription or a report or something like that. And you would need to follow the instructions on that particular portal to get it. And most of the time you have to create a secure patient account first, meaning you need to identify yourself, who you are. You need to create a username, then an email or phone number or text will be sent to verify it's you. And then you create that password. Sometimes most of the time there are requirements, you create that password. Then you log on, and sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe because, like I said, your security settings are not correct on your equipment. Maybe because there's an internal server error on the doctor/office's end. It could be a stuck record or something like this. And then it really depends how you go forward. I mean, giving up is probably the worst solution you can do. Reaching out to the right department and the right contact would probably get a long way, because most of the time it's an easy enough fix, either on the system administrators and on the medical providers end, or just a tip from the village or something to say, hey, use a different browser, try to restart your computer, or for that matter, a more customized answer to your question.
That's great, Chris. So working with the health committee, we're going to try to get programs together for the fall. And it sounds to me like you can be uniquely helpful with this. I actually am a patient of the Virginia Hospital Center, and they use the Epic EMR. Yeah. And I navigate enough to figure it out, but I'm sure there's more functionality and I can do it better than I am. And, you know, there are a number of ways that you can use technology to promote your health. So
yeah,
really
absolutely.
You're working with us on it.
Yeah. I mean, for example, you can also communicate to your doctor via a secure patient messaging system. You can request refills sometimes on medication. Doctors' offices can e-prescribe, meaning you would need to provide the right pharmacy, and it could be sent there. There are pharmacies out there like SMP Pharmacy, to name one, which would actually ship the medication to your doorstep. It all depends which hospital, doctor, EMR system you're working with, more or less as a patient, but also the services provided by that particular EMR system. There different systems have there's like a little switch box in the background providers can turn on and off, meaning either there can be prescriptions placed in there, and there could be correspondence put in there. You could have a method to communicate with your doctor. You can even do telehealth appointments with your doctor if that is decided by the doctor or not. And it even tests results, right? So when you log on, for example, on Kaiser, you should see like messages, past test results over the last couple of years. Yeah, also, I think each insurance company has their login, which is again different from the provider you're going to. And I think it's a pretty big area which could be covered there.
Thank you very much. The record systems that I use with Virginia Hospital Center, then I will stop talking because I know Catherine or others still want to jump in, has all those features. You can secure message, you can request refills, you can read test results even before they contact you.
Yep. Which
can be a little scary sometimes because you know what you're reading, but it's up there. So thank you, Lynn. I turn it back to you. And I think we have someone to help us for the fall.
Absolutely. So Catherine, I know you also had a
quick
question.
Has anybody else found during Carol speaking that there's a lot of interference? So, Chris, are you hearing her clearly? Because
yeah. It's probably her microphone.
It's just about impossible. And that happens.
I was going to say the same thing.
We can, there we have a perfect example of some kind of interference. And I'm not, thankfully, or, I'm sorry for the rest of you, I'm not the only person who's experienced it during this wonderful but lengthy conversation. We can hear you, or at least I can, speaking for myself. I can hear you, Chris, loud and clear, but Carol is just shaking all over the place and lots of static. Anybody else having trouble with her? Okay.
I was going to ask the same question because I'm out here in the country and I always think that I have a problem because my internet may not be so strong all the time, but I'm hearing everyone else perfectly. But Carol, the video and the audio were not in sync and it was choppy. Even the audio, static and choppy, breaking.
Okay, I get it.
But why? But
Hear
why,
me, right?
Chris?
I'm sorry.
Because this is not unique
You
to
had
you,
to
Carol, at all. We experience this in ordinary life.
Now,
So,
Liz, I can't hear you.
am I on
uh,
mute? I don't think so.
No, we
Lynn,
can hear you,
Lynn,
Catherine.
can you hear me?
I can hear you,
Lynn, can-
Carol, and I can hear you, Carol, and I could
I'm
hear
sorry,
Catherine
Lynn,
before.
can
Ah,
you hear?
She's got a problem, I think.
No, Carol, we can hear
Okay,
you, and
well,
Catherine, I can hear you too. before.
I'll sign off because it looks like I'm disrupting the conversation. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. I think the issue, Chris, and correct me, I'm not the computer expert, but I think the issue is with her microphone.
Yeah, it could be the microphone, part of it, but then also the picture itself was a little bit delayed or so, which would tell me that the connection to the modem / wireless access point may have been too far away, or the signal radiated wasn't strong enough to reach a position strong enough. I probably would also check the microphone. And what she could do is probably run a speed test on her device to see how much up and download speed she would get. I mean, she probably still hear Carol, right?
No, she actually signed off because she was afraid that it was
Right.
a problem. But so, Chris, the next time you're at Carol's, you may want to run a speed test.
Yeah. All right.
All
So
right.
Chris, that's typically not on the recipient's end, but it's on the broadcasting end. Is that correct? Because
Yes.
I often encounter that, and I think it's
Yeah.
something wrong with my connection, and that appears to be dispelled as the cause, if I've
Yeah.
understood.
Correct. Yeah. It's when the signal is too weak to reach the server, more or less, then it's delayed, and there's problem. There could be problem.
Is freezing the same?
Yeah, that's the same. I mean, it's when you see the screen move like very slow, right? And it's like choppy, so to speak.
Yes,
And the
same thing.
Yeah, same thing. It's staticky or choppy.
Right. And so, Catherine, one way to know that is if you can hear everybody but one person clearly, you have to know that it's not you, it's their system.
Yeah.
You don't always have that kind of comparison to make.
Right.
so
That's true. That's true.
Because what you have to think of, if I can just mention this, so each of you uses a internet service provider to reach the Zoom server, right? And then the Zoom, and that's upload speed. And then the Zoom server then in return broadcasts all of the images and sound to each of you, right? So the upload part is you reaching the Zoom server, you seeing everyone else is the download. So in that case, that was a good example that the upload from Carol's location to the server was compromised in a way that there's low speeds or connection problems or something. And you having been able to hear and see everyone else, meaning your download is fine.
Great. Catherine, did you have another question for Chris?
Well, it's sort of related. If one is streaming some sort of program, video, movie, what have you, opera performance, we can get everything these days. It's really fantastic. And all of a sudden you drop, the signal drops or it freezes. Is that one's own incapacity of one's technology, or is that within the system or the internet provider's realm, or do we know?
You would need to check, for example, let's say you have a laptop next to you and you can reach CNN, let's say, then it's the streaming service. That's
This is typically with a mobile device. I'm in Polly's Island, and that's all I've got here.
Yeah.
I don't.
And do you check when this happens that you can reach other services, or does everything?
No, I'll do that. What would that tell me?
That would tell you that there's a problem with the streaming service.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Are there any other questions for Chris? We have this expert here. Let's take advantage.
I have one more. What's the time?
We've
Everybody's.
got time. What else you got, Catherine?
I just want to know, Chris, having been sort of a displaced person from Georgetown for a little while, I'm using mobile devices and I have a wonderful iPad Pro. And you've seen them because you worked on 2 huge Mac desktops in my computer room in DC. And I need to figure out what I want to go to. And do I need a laptop? I don't think I want those big desktops anymore, but if one is in the market to upgrade one's device, I'm only an Apple person from the beginning to the end. But what recommendation we have for someone who's gotten terribly reliant on using my fingers to move things around? I just love that capability. But I'm sure there are things that a laptop would allow me to do that I'm missing on devices that I'm using. But
Usually,
no.
usually the mobile devices like iPhones and iPads, talking about Apple products, utilize apps. Okay. If you have the need to run a program which is not capable of being available in an app, then you would need a laptop or desktop. If you do your emails on your iPad, if you do access, for example, Google Drive or Sheets or something like that, if you do Zoom calls most of the time, then you don't really need a laptop, in my opinion, because you're just based on a mobile app environment. If you utilize programs like drawing something, for example, in Paint, or that's a Word program, but or Microsoft Office, Outlook, PowerPoint, then you're probably more on a laptop, desktop side. But if you do video streaming, Zoom calls, emailing, a couple of apps, you're fine with a mobile device from Apple.
The laptop is sort of a baby desktop, right? Having similar functionality.
No? Well, you could say it that way, yeah. I mean, I think when you get into the office work, especially with Microsoft Office, you definitely want to be on a laptop or desktop. Emailing, scheduling, I mean, that's all fine on a mobile device.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Liz, you need to unmute again. Liz, you're still muted. There you go.
I just wanted to say to Catherine that I don't like anything that's heavy. I've never had a desktop, and I'm an Apple person, and I like the MacBook Air because it's light. And they're about to come out with a new one in October or something like that. They haven't had one for several years. So you might just want to look at it. I know I'm going to look at it because I have a much older one. So anyway, I don't want to take up anybody's time, but I thought I would tell you that.
I think I've read in some of maybe the Wall Street critics about that new Mac laptop that's going to have the functionality of using one's finger. I think there's going to be a sort of hybrid modality in terms of operating it. So
do you mean a
touchpad?
Do you mean a touchpad?
Sorry?
Are you talking about a
Yes.
touchpad?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have that on my MacBook Air.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Chris, I don't know whether you think they're good, but I mean, I've been happy with it.
Then it works for you.
As long as, here's the thing, as long as you're happy with it and you like working with it and it can do whatever you require it to do, I think you're probably well served with the device. I'm more concerned about the age of the device. right? Everyone has their own little favorite, maybe an iPad, maybe a laptop touchpad, maybe a desktop, maybe a Windows machine, maybe you name it, right? As long as it fits your needs and you can work with it and you can get the stuff done you want to have done, right? You're fine, in my opinion. In general, if you use Apple products, I think you're a little safer off and protected from viruses maybe and malware itself because it's Linux based. But there are quite capable programs out there for Windows itself too. But again, want to stress very much that you got to be careful out there. You can get scammed. It doesn't matter which device you use. You can be scammed on a phone, on an iPad. It depends on you, what you allow, basically, right? If you think it sounds fishy and it's weird and it doesn't look right, it probably isn't. I would say most of the time. And if you have any doubt, you're probably going to ask someone before you sign up for it. Usually that doesn't hurt.
And also, I'm just going to put in another plug here to be very careful when you're opening emails, you know, particularly those with attachments from places or people you haven't requested. You know, again, this morning I had one from Microsoft with a highly urgent document for me to look at. Well, obviously I deleted it because I wasn't expecting any documents. And oftentimes, if you check the return email address, you'll see it doesn't match who it's supposed to be coming from. So just be careful when you open things, be careful when you click on attachments. Even if they're coming from somebody you may want to double check. Did you send me a picture of your grandchild? Because sometimes they haven't, and it's just a scam. So
Yeah.
Also, phishing stuff. I got an email from the Maryland DMV that they wanted information from me, and when I Googled online, scams Maryland DMV, there it was. So I knew not
Very
to
clever.
reply.
I wonder about that. We're all getting them. Amazon's the worst. Somebody sends you, I've got a PlayStation that I want to deliver, that thing. And then they give you the number. If there's something wrong with this order, call this number. And of course, it's a scammer's number. So you need to call Amazon and not the number they give you. That's a biggie. I
Right.
get those almost every day.
Call nobody.
What I wonder about, Chris and Lynn, is whether or not just deleting the damn thing is sufficient. Is it able to install malware because it's somewhere lurking in trash? What is it? What is the thing one can do best to get rid of the darn thing so it can't somehow in the background, even though you've trashed it, infiltrate your system? Or is that not possible? Or
Yes, it is. Delete
so.
Delete the email and empty the trash.
Okay, thank you.
That's probably, and the best way is like Lynn said, to look at the sender. I've seen a couple of emails lately from the US Postal Service and from PayPal. Your account has been locked or whatever, right? I mean, that's something you want to make sure you trash right away and then empty the trash. Sometimes look at the spam folder. Don't open any emails there unless you really know the person sending it from. But most of the time, just empty out the spam. It could be that once in a while you get an email which the sender and it is a right email, which shouldn't be in there. Then move it to inbox. But most of the time, 95% of the time, it's literally just junk. Also, don't click unsubscribe, really. Yeah, most like the spam emails, like the real spam, they have sometimes when you open it and you have it open, there's an option to unsubscribe, right? Don't do it, just delete it, because that usually puts you on a different list to receive more stuff. But the regular emails, you should be able to unsubscribe. But how do you decide which one is a regular email from somewhere? And
can I just ask a follow-on with that? I did unsubscribe from a listserv. It's a county listserv. I know it's a legitimate
Yeah.
but I'm tired of it. And because they're crazed. But anyhow, I hit unsubscribe. So I keep getting all the emails from it anyway, saying this is from an unsubscribed source. I
Yeah.
mean,
The
I'll
best,
never get rid of them.
no, the one way is to probably reach out to the person who runs the listserv
Okay.
and say,
Good
hey,
idea.
I like your emails, or I like your emails, but they're just too many and I don't want them anymore. Please please switch the toggle and make sure I don't get them anymore, because that's what I just mentioned. Sometimes this unsubscribe doesn't really work, even though it should, I think, per law. But
They get my ire up, I'll tell you. I'm so sick of those emails, but I can't get rid of them. I will call them.
Chris, is it better to use the junk? Just make sure they're put in the junk file?
Doesn't matter.
you can, but they may still show up.
Yeah, they still show up.
But I guess the commercial people are the best ones that paying attention.
I will just mention that I got a scam phone call from somebody saying they were from Medicare, asking about, you can't trust anything you don't know.
And that's an
Thank you.
important thing to point out, Liz. That is important. Even if it's a phone call, don't assume that it's safe. Don't assume that you can give them information. If you have a question, you can just say, well, I'll get back to you, and then look online and call the Medicare number.
He said he was from Medicare, wanted to know something or other, and I said, I sincerely doubt it, and I'm not talking to you, and I hung up, I mean.
Well, good. That's what
So,
you should do. And like I said, and if you really, if it's bothering you, oh, I wonder if I needed to answer this, call the Medicare number that you have. You have the number to reach Medicare. Give them a call. If you don't have the number, call the office. We'll give you the legitimate number.
Medicare never calls you. They know it's a scam.
Right. But sometimes people think, oh, maybe I did need, so call them. That's all. Well, thank you. Are there any last questions? And if not, we will call it an evening. Chris, as always, thank you for your time, your knowledge, you're freely sharing this knowledge with us. We appreciate it. And we will see some of you at our party next week. And for those of you who won't be there, we will miss you and hope to see you online soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.